scenic and enjoyable across the greater Philadelphia region, but also potentially threatened by development pressure. They may be lost in the future. Future generations may not be able to enjoy the view that we see today. And again, here is the Delaware River and the D&L Trail, the Delaware Canal, River Road. And this is the type of viewshed we're talking about. We're going to go through this campaign quickly. We'll talk about a viewshed analysis, what it looks like, how it works, and how we used it to develop and implement this campaign. And when I call it a campaign, this is an ongoing effort. It's an online website we'll talk more about that's going to be available and open for the future, certainly throughout this year and likely throughout next year. Let's see, what do I got next here? So you're familiar with the Delaware River. Here's another trail experience. Many of you probably enjoy hiking, biking, jogging, walking on trails just like these. These are the trails that we looked at as part of this project. And these are the types of views and experiences that we want to make sure are available for future generations, whether it's sweeping views of agricultural lands, rivers, hillsides, and other landscapes. That's what this project entails. If you recognize something that you love, feel free to throw it in the chat. You can chat with each other while we're presenting here today, and we'll have some time at the end here for Q&As. The Schuylkill River, the Hopewell Big Woods Trail, the Schuylkill Trail. So this is the landscape we looked at. It's the greater 5-county Philadelphia region plus areas of New Jersey. These are all multi-use long-distance trails that are part of the Circuit Trail Network. The Circuit Trail is the collection of trails in the greater Philadelphia region. What we identified on this map are trails that were both enjoyable, that had beautiful views and high-quality trail experiences, but were potentially threatened by development. So across these areas, we identified 10 hotspots. These 10 hotspots are the areas that met those criteria. So we'll take a look at how the analysis was put together, take a little bit of a deep dive into a few of these. And here we are again along the Delaware River. To put it into perspective, this is the type of landscape we love to enjoy when we're outdoors. The area we're looking at here is not protected as parkland in perpetuity. Parts of it are, parts of it are not. Could you imagine major development occupying the ridge in the distance, for example, and how that might change the viewshed and how much you enjoy paddling or biking down the D&L Trail. Similarly on the Schuylkill River. And we found as part of this analysis, go figure, that when you're on a bridge crossing a river, the views happen to be exceptionally scenic. Go figure. So we did take a close look at those resources. We'll talk more about that too. So that's the overview, and I'll come back to talk a little bit more about the campaign, but it's a pleasure to turn it over to Cathy Poppenwimer, who led the development of the project and the research behind it. So I'm excited to hear from her about how this campaign really came together.
Thanks, Mark. Before we start talking about the 10 trail focus areas, I'm going to go over how they were selected. The main objective of Protect the View and the research it is based on is to identify significant trail views within the circuit that are a high risk of development so that these areas may be protected for future generations to enjoy. So the visual assessment project was initiated to achieve this goal. There are two phases. The first is a circuit trail visual assessment that identified areas with significant trail views along selected circuit trails, and phase two, protecting significant views along the circuit or Protect the View. Determine which areas with significant trail views are at a high risk for development. First, I'm going to highlight the main points of the circuit trail visual assessment and then focus on the Protect the View methodology. The Circuit Trail Visual Assessment Project began over 3 years ago. We included circuit trails that were primarily within suburban or rural settings. The assessment was divided into two sections or steps. First, a viewshed analysis from the trail was completed to identify land or parcels seen from the trail. A viewshed is the area visible from specific locations along the trail. Second, an assessment was completed that ranked the parcels that were within the trail's viewshed, identifying priority conservation areas. A geographic information system, or GIS, was used to develop both phases of this assessment. The methodology was reviewed, modified, and improved by our project partners. First, we needed to identify which trails that met our criteria. Trails in suburban or rural areas were selected. However, we did exclude trails in heavily urban areas, on roads, and ones located in parks that are surrounded by wooded areas. Therefore, 30 circuit trails were selected. We also, each of these trails was evaluated separately. The first part in the visual assessment was to determine what we can see from the trail. So a viewshed analysis was completed. A viewshed includes all areas that are visible from a specific location or locations, but it also excludes areas that are beyond the horizon or obstructed or blocked from view by the terrain and other features on the landscape, such as buildings, trees, and other vegetation. We used a digital surface model, or DSM, which was developed using a 1 meter resolution LiDAR data to develop the viewsheds. The DSM includes both bare earth and landscape feature values. We used the DSM since it more accurately represented what the trail user would be able to see. However, the DSM underestimates the view for at least part of the year, since forests are represented as leaf on and not leaf off. Landscapes, vegetation, and structures can also change over time. The results in the study represents the priority viewshed protection needs based on conditions as the spring of 2015, when the LiDAR data was collected. The viewshed is calculated at each observation point or points. The observation points were placed approximately 42 feet apart along the trail. The height of the viewshed was calculated at approximately 6 feet, which is the average height of the human eye. The analysis was limited to a distance of 1 mile from the trail. The second part in the visual assessment was to determine the quality of what we are seeing from the trail. Using the viewshed analysis, we were able to identify those parcels viewed from the trail. We included both protected and unprotected parcels. Parcels not within the trail viewshed were removed from the analysis. Viewed parcels were then examined, scored, and ranked based upon 4 categories, including visibility from the trail, which evaluates how much and how the parcel is seen from the trail. Category components include viewshed area within the parcel, the visual magnitude, which refers to how many of the trail observation points views that parcel, and the distance of the parcel from the trail. Scenic character evaluates what is being seen of that parcel that is visually appealing. Only the area of the parcel that's within the viewshed area was included in this part of the analysis. These components include slope, land cover, water resources, historic and cultural resources. Key observation points, or KOPs, highlight locations along the trail that have a significant view. These KOPs were actually identified by our project partners. Ownership fragmentation includes parcel size and if it is adjacent to a protected open space and by how much. For this category, we assessed the entire parcel. Each component was scored and then added to eventually determine the combined parcel value, or the CPV score. Using this score, we identified those parcels with the highest value for conservation based on resource values and landscape context to protect the view of the trail.
Cathy, could I interrupt you with a good question? Somebody was asking,
sure.
What is LiDAR data? Could you define that for us, please?
Sure. LiDAR stands for light detection and ranging, and this is data that's collected using like a laser pulse and from a device, and it captures the landscape in very detailed, gathers very detailed information. So when I say the resolution is at 1 meter, it actually can be at 1 foot, but I just bumped it up to 1 meter. So it's LiDAR is just the way the data is collected, that elevation information.
Thank you. Perfect.
Okay.
Topography data. Topography data.
I'm sorry?
It's like topography data is what you're capturing.
Right. It's telling you the elevation and, you know, the height of the features on the landscape. So, and it's just the method that has improved over time to be able to produce a more accurate representation of the landscape.
Perfect.
Okay.
Ready?
So, I'm sorry?
Are you ready for the next slide? Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I think, yeah. Yeah, I'm ready for the next slide. Great, thank you. So the second phase of the project, Protect the View, was completed in 2020. And the result of this phase was the selection of the focus areas. So what are focus areas? These are areas with significant trail views containing unprotected lands that are a high risk for development. These areas were identified using a two-step process. First, an assessment of risk for the development was prepared. And second, the results of the risk analysis were then overlaid with the significant trail views identified in the Circuit Trail Visual Assessment Study. We also included input from the project stakeholders on the final selection of the focus areas. So 10 focus areas on 6 trails were identified. The first step was preparing the development risk assessment to identify potential high-risk areas. This was composed of population growth and future development. For population growth, both percent and absolute population change by municipalities were included. Depending on the trail location, the majority of the trend data was from 2010 to 2040. For future development, once again, depending on the trail location, the majority of this information included both current and future planning areas, land use vision, and planning center neighborhoods. Each potential development area was ranked and combined to create a data layer quantifying the risk for development. So the higher the value, the higher the risk for development. The second step of this process, the results of the risk for development assessment were overlaid with significant trail views from the Circuit Trail Visual Assessment phase. These were identified as high and medium ranked unprotected parcels, which represent the top 15% ranked parcels for each trail. These unprotected parcels that are the greatest risk for development are parcels that coincide with the highest value of risk for development. To determine the focus areas, a subjective assessment was completed. We evaluated the unprotected parcels at the greatest risk for development to other factors, including parcels' location to the trail and protected lands in the area, land use, land cover, and ongoing protection efforts in that region. Lastly, we consulted the project stakeholders whose input assisted in determining the final focus areas. So these are the 10 focus areas that were selected from the 30 circuit trails that were part of the visual assessment project. Now, back to Mark.
Thanks, Cathy. So quite an impressive analysis, to say the least, of what has gone into identifying these places that are special, that have great views and great trail experiences, but are also potentially threatened by development. Really incredible how a viewshed analysis works and how we can create the data to really make the case for protecting these places. So we took it to the next step here. We took the data and the analysis and we created a public-facing website and campaign. So please, I encourage you to check it out when you can, either if you can do so now or in the future, go ahead and bookmark the page. It's protecttheview.com. And on that page, you'll be immediately directed to one of the 10 trail landing pages. This one is the Hopewell Big Woods Vista. Each one of the 10 trail pages, let's see here. Why don't I just go ahead and take you over there and we'll go right to the website. Let me switch over to that screen. Great. So here we are on the Protect the View website. And our goal with the website was to create a place for the general public, trail users, trail advocates, people passionate about these places to become a part of the advocacy to protect them. So this is the landing page with all 10 trail views. And let's go ahead and dive into one of them. Before we got started today, Phil Hunsberger was telling me about Spring City. So here we are, the Schuylkill River Bend at Spring City. This area was identified in Cathy's analysis of having exceptional trail views. So there's the trail. The power lines are not my favorite, but look at that corridor. And this is, in suburban Philadelphia. You've got forested areas bordering the trail, agricultural areas immediately beyond the trail corridor. And those areas are in private ownership, and many of those lands are threatened by development pressure. That's what the data shows us. So this is the map that Cathy referenced that each one of these pages has. It's showing you already protected lands here in green, agricultural easements in orange, and other private lands here immediately adjacent to the trail are some of these agricultural areas that could be put into conservation easement to ensure that that area is not developed, changed, commercial development, warehouses, whatnot. Whatever the zoning might allow, or zoning can always change. And this is the trail landing page for this particular threatened trail view. We've got some key facts and figures available here, information about the growth trends in the area, the total number of parcels in the focal area, and how much is left to be protected. So protected, unprotected, lots of work to do. 409 acres of land that is visible from the trail that has a scenic quality. So land that's farmland, forested land, land that has historic resources or water resources would qualify as high quality trail resource, something that is visible and that's something you want to continue to see from the trail corridor. So those are the areas we target. You can take a look at the detailed reports, PDF reports. Here's a quick example. You can dive in to the report, take a look at all the information, the data. We have 2 very detailed reports so you can learn more about the analysis, how it was put together. We've got the compelling images and videos here in the sliding screen, people using the trail and enjoying it. And, my favorite part here, bringing it back to speaking up for the outdoors, is a quick widget for you to send a letter to your decision maker supporting state open space funding programs. The letter is very general. It says, I am a trail user. I love the outdoors. I want to protect these landscapes for future generations. Please fund open space programs to help make that future a reality. You've probably used these before. If not, go ahead and send a letter right now. Where are we at here? So you enter your information, use my home information, and your representatives will auto-populate. Click send email, as quick as that. That's my old office address, but go ahead and send those letters in today. And if you leave this box checked, you'll continue to receive emails from the Appalachian Mountain Club on other advocacy opportunities. So the website is really robust. There's a lot of opportunities for the public to engage. And we hope that you will be a part of sharing the website on social media and by email and with your friends and family and the community that you work with. These are the 10 trail views across the region. I bet you a good number of you have ridden your bike or hiked on all 10 of these. Did you know that all 10 of these locations have high quality outdoor and visual resources and are threatened by development? The Delaware and Tohickon Junction, for example, the Hopewell Big Woods Vista. Coming down that trail we were looking at, up in the distance, the entire ridgeline is in private ownership. So these are the places that we've identified in this campaign that we need your help to protect. We also included a social media toolkit where you can download the photographs and the visual assets to help the campaign. We've got hashtags and different phrases you can use if you'd like to share this website on social media or through other vehicles. Template social media posts you can use, and that's the URL there if you're interested in pulling down any of those assets. And we're also really encouraging our trail partners, the other nonprofit organizations, to use those resources. So Delaware and Lehigh, the Schuylkill, the Circuit Trails Coalition, other trail sponsoring organizations. And again, it comes down to reaching our trail users and mobilizing them to be active advocates for open space programs. That's what we're trying to do through this campaign. We've had great success so far. The websites have been well received and shared on social media quite a bit. We've generated hundreds of letters to decision makers, encouraging them to support robust funding for open space programs. And this is how we're working with our partner organizations. Many of you out there also volunteer or support other organizations like AMC, whether it be a local land trust, trail organization, a different club like Allentown Hiking Club or whatever. You know, I'm glad that you're so well plugged into the community out there, but you can help. You can bring this campaign to their attention. Maybe you work with your local land trust in Chester County. They would be a great entity to build relationships with the landowners who own the property identified by this campaign that is in private ownership and in need of protection. So whether it's a state agency, a nonprofit land trust, or municipal or county government, those are all places that we can help spread the word about this campaign and help protect our trail views across the region. Feel free to follow up with me directly too if you need any additional resources. We'll have this campaign open throughout all of 2021, likely throughout all of 2022. We may make additional tweaks and improvements to it, but the idea is that you'll have plenty of chances to be a part of it and to use these resources. I encourage you to take the time to go to the website, download the PDFs, dig into the maps, follow up with me and Cathy if you have any questions. That's taken us close to the end of the program that we had prepared for all of you today. This was my favorite piece of footage captured as part of this project. Maybe I'm just a sucker for the Delaware River. This is on the lower Delaware Wild and Scenic, congressionally designated river. One of my favorite sections to paddle. And we hired a photographer who took images and obviously video footage, drone footage as well. He did an exceptionally good job for us. If you ever need a contract photographer, I'm happy to provide him as a reference. And having high quality images from all these 10 places really makes the campaign kind of striking, stunning. It creates that sense of place. We're probably familiar with the sense of place, but a lot of people go outside, they enjoy the trails, they go to the local park. They don't think about the fact that the experience that they cherish and that they love may not be the same quality or a different experience in the future if we're not careful about protecting the places that we care the most about. That's why we created and launched the Protect the View campaign, entirely led by the Appalachian Mountain Club staff, volunteers, and our partner organizations, with the financial support of our grant funders through the William Penn Foundation and Pennsylvania Department of Conservation and Natural Resources. So that is what I have prepared. I am going to stop sharing my screen so we can see each other again. I'd love to have any questions. If you have any right now, I don't see any more in the chat. If you have one, feel free to throw it in the chat. If you just want to raise your hand or jump right in. I think we have time for that, right? I'm sure Lenny, Bill, or someone else will cut me off if we need to. How about those 10 trail views? If I don't have any questions, any one of those 10 locations, anybody care specifically about, or have any thoughts or that they want to underscore or highlight?
Mark, was there something in South Jersey more, did I see? We have a couple of South Jersey folks with us.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Anything in New Jersey?
Yeah, a great question. We did. We identified trails in New Jersey as well. New Jersey is part of the Circuit Trail Network. So as part of this project, we looked at the already existing trails in New Jersey, and I'll show you exactly what we found here. So let's take a quick look over here. And these 10 locations are the most threatened trail views. We did look at other areas in phase 1 of this project. So the Kincora farmland, this is one area that we identified as having resources that were high quality and threatened by trail development. And Hilltown Farms, I believe, was that the other one, Cathy? Do you remember?
No, I think it was just Kincora farmland that we focused on. Yeah. I mean, in the phase of the visual assessment project, we did that viewshed analysis and ranking on everything that's in green. So all the trails there in New Jersey in green that we did, there are reports on those.
So you can zoom in here, you can see these specific trail segments that Cathy was mentioning. We did assessments in phase 1 of the 30 trails that she mentioned. So it included the Delaware and Raritan Canal Trail, the Lawrence Hopewell Trail. That's this network that's identifying when you click on the map, the Johnson Trolley Line Trail, all of these kind of in the greater Princeton area. These were areas that we identified for phase 1. They were not in the top 10 category. The only one in New Jersey that made it to the top 10 was Kincora, Pemberton, and there's Kincora. And again, that's based on both the quality of the visual resource and the threat of development pressure. But we're happy to get you the phase 1 reports are available. But let's take a quick look here at Kincora. I love this one. It's a gorgeous landscape. We took a quick look at this video in the opening. Really a beautiful, beautiful location. What I loved about Kincora is in Pennsylvania, at least, a lot of our trails are old abandoned rail corridors like the Schuylkill River Trail. And generally speaking, a lot of the trails in Pennsylvania are at the bottom of the valley. And in New Jersey, along the Kincora Trail and elsewhere, it is not exactly the same topography, or they're not rail trails, they're just trails that did not follow old abandoned rail corridors. And you can just see by looking at the map here of the Kincora Trail, we're not looking at a ridgeline and a forested landscape like the Delaware River. We're looking at an agricultural area with significant agricultural lands that are already in preservation, and then lands that are in private ownership but visible from the trail. So those are some of the protection opportunities or some of the areas that we're looking at in these areas of the priority focal area.
Mark, I see we have in the chat a comment from Greg Cook. He says, this research is an incredible information source for advocacy. In addition to the individual actions you described we can take, is there an overall goal for the campaign?
Thanks, Greg. Well, I would say that the goals are to raise awareness. My overall goal is to connect people that care about the outdoors and to engage them in advocacy, get them to understand the resource they care about. If it's a park, how it was protected, how we can protect additional parkland. If it's a trail, how was that trail developed? How can we develop more trails? And how can we protect a trail experience so future generations can enjoy these places the same way that we're enjoying them today? So my goal is in a broad sense to take people on the spectrum, off the street, recreational users, to becoming passionate advocates for the outdoors. I think this campaign picks people off of one portion of the spectrum, people who already go out and enjoy the trails, who love these scenic views, and hopefully provides them with the information and the resources to become effective advocates. A different goal from this project, we talk a lot about engaging the public. This project also provides a research analysis of private lands in these areas and ranks them. So a lot of our partners in the land trust community and in the state agencies like PADCNR are encouraging applicants that want to apply for money to protect open space to take a look at our reports. And if the parcel that they want to buy is in this target focal area, they can add to their application that information, and that will give them a plus up in the scoring process for their application to receive funding to purchase those lands as open space. So our project is adding value on the back end as well. Great question. Thanks, Greg. If you guys have other goals too, I think there's a lot we can do with the data, with the campaign web pages, and with the videos and the photographic images, obviously.
Great. Any other questions for Mark and Cathy? Just go ahead and speak up.
Jim and I didn't really have a question, but we live in Easton, and whenever you get to a nice elevation in Easton and you look at the view, we have a view of Schrin landfill. And I don't think they're going to be able to see it. It's actually right behind us right now. We're sitting up at the courthouse.
That coming through there?
Not well, no.
Not too well. There,
Anyway.
there we go.
Oh, yeah, I got you.
See that? That's a landfill right across from the courthouse up near Route 78.
Looking south
At
at Morgan Hill. And you cannot go anywhere at any elevation in Easton. If you're at Lafayette College, we go to the cemetery and walk, it's on a hill. That's your view. So that's how bad it can be. It's horrible. And I wish Easton had protected its view.
Yeah, well, that's a real world example of why we try to plan ahead to protect ridge lines that we care about, because they could be lost. And
that was a wooded hillside until Schrin landfill started, and they keep expanding it. It just keeps parading across that entire mountainside. It's Morgan Hill on the south side of East.
Do you remember before the landfill was there, when it was a wooded hill?
Oh yeah,
yes.
when we moved here 40 years ago, there was a beautiful wooded hill, and now you don't have in there the Lehigh, the Delaware, the Lehigh River Canal that goes all the way up. That's different, but you can see it from there.
And
we're gonna ride that tomorrow. It goes up to Humor Park and all the way up to Jimthorpe.
But here we are at the concourse of the Delaware and the Lehigh, right at the intersection of the D&L trails. And here we have, that's our view in Easton. It's pretty sad. Anyway, so we get this completely.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Lynn. That's a great comment to add.
But when you want to acquire some of this private land, to put it into conservation, who actually funds that?
Love that question, Holly. So first and foremost, any private landowner, if all of you own your house outright, you are welcome to donate it for conservation. But in reality, most of the time, let's say you're a farmer, let's just as an example, say that your children don't want to take over the family farm and you want to put it into conservation. You would contact a land trust, a private organization like Natural Lands. There's a lot out there, Wildlands Conservancy. They will help broker a contract for you to sell your property for open space. Oftentimes that property will then be owned, like the conservation easement. There's two types of protection. There's easements and fee simple ownership. A state park is a fee simple ownership where the state owns all of the land outright. An easement is where you only own certain rights to the land. So in a wooded hillside, for example, the state may buy an easement that will prevent you from building residential on that property, but you may still be allowed access to log the timber or do other things on the property. Lots of complex relationships out there. Easements are a great tool though. So how does it happen? How do you fund it? The state of Pennsylvania, for example, and New Jersey have robust open space funding programs. In New Jersey, many of you may remember 4 or 5 years ago, a question on the ballot to constitutionally dedicate a portion of the corporate business tax to provide long-term stable funding to the New Jersey Garden State Preservation Trust. AMC was a partner in that coalition and that campaign. We contributed time and money to help get that initiative on the ballot. Voters approved it by over 65%. That money is now permanently dedicated, $66 million to $100 million a year in New Jersey to protect open space, farmland, open space, coastal areas, flood buyouts, et cetera. In Pennsylvania, the revenue comes from different sources. It's not corporate business tax. It comes from trash tipping fees, like at the dump. Every time they dump a truckload of trash, they have to pay a fee that goes into the open space fund. There's other funding sources in Pennsylvania as well. And then at the local and county level, many of you may be familiar with municipalities and counties that have voluntary open space funding programs. So your municipality may choose to enact a millage on your property tax, and a small portion of your tax will go into a dedicated fund that will then be matching funding available for the state and others to cobble together and use that to protect the property. Federal funding is available through the Land and Water Conservation Fund, other programs, the Highlands Conservation Act, the Forest Legacy Program, programs through the Farm Bill. So it is complicated, and there's a lot of programs out there. That's why there's great nonprofit organizations like the Wildlands Conservancy and Natural Lands that are willing to work with you if you are interested in putting your land into conservation to wade through that complex funding scenario. And it may take a few years, but these deals happen all the time. So the revenue comes from many different places. Some revenue sources are more stable than others. And we at AMC have been advocating for federal, state, and local funding for open space conservation for as long as I can remember.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, great question.
Any other questions for Mark? Yeah. Bill? Bill, you need to unmute.
If anyone's going to hear me, I need to unmute. Mark and Cathy, thank you very much. That was very interesting. And I recognize several of the places, and hopefully everyone else did too, because I think that has much more of an impact when we are using these places right now. So again, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next month of June, we will be meeting on June 16th, the same situation in Zoom. And this will be the last meeting of the year. We will then have to analyze what will be happening in the fall. The June meeting, I personally will be hosting the meeting. I'm putting together a presentation on village life in a small village about 5 hours northwest of Kathmandu. Many of us have been to Nepal and have thoroughly enjoyed the trekking destinations. Since I have a relative living there and doing business there, my nephew Dale Nafziger is currently working with a village to help them become coffee growers. He has a coffee shop and a coffee business in Kathmandu, Nepal. And I've had the opportunity of visiting this village. So I want to do just a little bit of introducing people to the village, to the people of the village, and how these farmers there can have a little bit extra income with growing coffee plants. So join us on June 16th. We'll start again at 7 o'clock. The meeting will start at 7:30. So between now and then, enjoy the new freedom we have and get out there and visit some of these 10 areas.
Good plan.
Mark, you have anything else to say this evening?
Nope, just tell everybody to stay cool and enjoy summer here in May.
Okay, very good. See you in June.
Okay, good night.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
Have a good night. Thanks, everyone. And thanks for hosting. Phil, Lenny, Bill.
Thanks for coming. Bill?